Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm feeling better today. Not good, but definitely better. Definitely an improvement. I actually ate today. I ate and I actually ate well. And a little bit shaky there for a little bit. Whether or not I was gonna, keep it down, but I did. And it helped. It definitely has given me, energy and whatnot. I also didn't drink much. I drank 1 cup of coffee all day yesterday. So having my normal coffee allotment is I'm sure helping some as well. So that's good news. Got to fly with my buddy Charles for a little bit earlier today. Trying to work with him, showing him how to. Now it's my turn. He taught so many people on how to fly aircraft. Now it's my turn because all the systems are different now and all of that. Much more complex now than what it used to be. And so I'll tell you one thing. I ain't and I'll say this a million times. I ain't got the patience he does. That man has the patience of a saint. I do not. If I tell you to click a button, that means just click the damn button. I love him like a brother. Seriously, I mean that. An awesome man to have as part of my life. So, anyway, I look forward to our next flight, which hopefully we'll get some airtime in tomorrow. This is probably the number one reason that I don't fly often is because I don't have anybody to fly with. And you can only go around and play ballet in the air above JFK for so long before it's boring. And so I think me and him are actually going to try to get going what we had going before, meaning get a group of people together that just take flights, and we go from hopping from airport to airport to airport. Most times in military jets, but we definitely have our love of bush planes and bush flying as well. So the reason why there are tons upon tons upon tons of groups of people out there that you can hop on their Discord, and they're more than happy to have you, and you can go flying to your heart's content with them. Here's the problem. When it comes to flying, I'm kind of an extreme person. And, flying is one thing, but flying like a madman, that's something a little bit different. And I tend to like to fly like a madman. And so, nothing against these groups, but I get kind of bored because it's just flying. There's no real challenge there. And so that's why I'm looking forward to getting something going again, because we did a number for building people's flying skills up. That's for sure. So I'd love to do that again. Not only that, but the lives that we affected back when we played FSX and did that. There are a number of people that participated in our sessions that have gone on to be at least get their private pilot's license. The vice president of SimGaming, who was a young man, teenager, when he started flying with us, he currently, I believe he's still in the Atlanta area, and he's ATC. He works tower. And of course, he's got to have his private pilot's license in order to get that far. So he's got that as well. I don't know what his ratings are. I don't know what all he's rated on. But so that was awesome, to be able to see a number of young kids motivated and inspired in aviation to the point of actually taking action. And Charles and I can raise our hands and said we had a part in that, and I think that's really cool. I would like to do that again. Thank you. I would definitely like to do that again. Gotta have Charles though, because I ain't got the patience. Anyway, let me have a sip of coffee. Man. Howdy, Midnight Rider. I just started looking up at the chat because yeah, I'm horrible about that. I did. I just kind of saw up there. I did get my new keyboard today, and I'm liking it. I always hate that first bit when you get a different keyboard because the keys are always spaced a little differently, and I'm going to have one big issue. It's got an extra row of keys on the left-hand side, and I use the control key a whole lot for shortcuts. And, yeah, I'm going to be hitting that bottom left key, which isn't the control key. So, anyway, no big deal. I do love the keyboard, though. It's heavy. I mean, they said people commented about how heavy it was, and I was like, okay. No, it's heavy. It's a nice heavy keyboard. I like heavy keyboards. So, hang on. Oh, sorry about that. Man. Anyway, it's a real nice heavy keyboard. The keys feel great. $20. I mean, I can't beat it. I really don't think I could have beat it. So anyway, enough of all that. Many of you are probably here to discuss what's going on with Russia. And it's not like I've got any inside information or anything like that. In fact, I haven't even completely read an article on what's going on. And you might think, well, then how the hell could you possibly be talking to us about it? Well, because in reality, the information that I do or don't have about whatever's going on with Russia and this particular torpedo and maybe a possible test, I don't know. I'm not going to do anything to affect it either way, right? I'm not going to be able to put a stop to it. I'm not going to be able to convince them to go ahead. I've got no, I'm not going to worry. The reason I'm not going to worry is because I was commanded not to worry. And at the same time, I was also commanded to prepare. And so I think I'm going to heed both of those bits of advice and continue to prepare, not worry, but I'm absolutely going to be keeping an eye out for that person in the middle of the night, if you know what I mean. Do I think that this is something we should really note as an escalation or as any type of a turning point? Or no. No. And the reason I say that is because you have to understand, Russia is not the only country that's been breaking out new weapons and talking about their new weapons and demonstrating their new weapons. The United States and other countries have been doing it as well. So it's not any different whether or not the United States tests a new weapon or whether Russia tests a new weapon. This is the saber-rattling part. Now, I've often said during all of this conflict with Ukraine and all this back and forth between the West and Russia that it wasn't saber-rattling. They weren't just saber-rattling. And I stand behind that. They weren't just saber-rattling. But these weapons tests, they're saber-rattling. That's the saber-rattling. I know it kind of seems weird that when they do things, it actually means less than when they just talk about doing things. But that's the reality of the situation. Our governments have so many damn weapons, it's unbelievable. There is no way for us to even have any remote idea of what type of technology that they actually possess. We're going to be probably close to 20 years behind. So what we know of as the latest and greatest weaponry is probably going to have a good 20 years on it already, or close. So I think you'll continue to see this back and forth of showing their toys. Man, I am still not convinced that there's enemies here. I am still not convinced that this is not just a circus sideshow. I'm going to hang on to that. There is something different about this. Now, I turned 50 last May. So, my childhood, my teenage years, especially the earlier teenage years, was during the Cold War. The end of the Cold War. And I remember all of the propaganda and all of the stuff that was going on, being said, and all of that back then. And it was very, very different than from today. Back then, it was like a mystery what the other countries were doing, what they were up to. Today, they announce it in advance. What kind of nonsense is that? How do you go to war like that? Like, hey, we're going to make a surprise attack on Russia Friday at 8 p.m. Moscow time. We're going to travel up the I-95. Now, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's almost how they are today. That was not the case in the 80s, my friends. That was not the case. Even as a child, my dad watched the news. There was no getting out of watching the news in our home. So my dad watched the news, which meant either us kids found something else to do or we watched the news too. This was back before every kid had 3 TVs in their room. And so I paid attention, and I remember the reporting, and I remember it was a much different reporting back then too. Back then, you could pretty well rely on them reporting the facts and keeping their opinion out of it. That was back before the news started sponsoring a bunch of companies and all of that. Yeah, back in them days. Well, anyway, I can remember different events happening and the tension between the countries because nobody knew what the other one was doing. And they had that red phone there just in case, and that was in my opinion, a good thing. I am certain that red phone has saved our butts as well as theirs. I'm not just saying ours, and the world's. It saved the world's butt. This is just a different sense today. It's just different. And I don't trust it. I don't trust it one bit. None of it, really. Does it make sense? At this point in the game, does it make sense that Russia is still playing tiddlywinks with Ukraine? Doesn't to me. Not at this point. Because I understand that Russia has the military and the equipment to just step in and bum rush the entire country of Ukraine. Boom. Done. But he's not. He's playing slap him in the face. That's all he's doing. Yeah, he's got those 4 regions. That's it. the latest, I think they were pushed back again, were they not? Meaning Russia. I don't know. I do think there's a headline today that states something went on otherwise that, I don't know. And who knows, you know? I mean, I certainly don't know anybody with boots on the ground to be able to get me certain information, but it really does not seem organic. Now, I don't know who it was that I watched earlier today. And they were saying their opinion of who they thought might be the perpetrator of the Nord Stream sabotage. They seem to think Poland, and had some damn good reasons to suspect Poland. And even in the headlines today, there was a couple of little things that just look a little bit like jabs from Poland towards Germany. So I can't rule that out. I've got to add that. Before, the only one I could think of would be the U.S. And I'm sure the U.S. was involved. But the actual perpetrators themselves might have been Poland. I don't know. But anyway, I don't have a lot of tabs open tonight. Not because I wanted necessarily a quick night or anything. There just really wasn't. I don't know. I just didn't feel like there were quite that many data points, if you will, that I really felt was super important to report on. Again, I don't see the things that are happening at this current time as something that we should be super, super concerned about, but we need to have our radars going anyway. So that doesn't change any. And you need to just keep getting ready the best you can. That doesn't nothing for us changes any. Keep getting ready, and don't let your emotions overrule you. That is so important, and that's the biggest reason why I get upset at these other prepper channels that do all this drama mama bullshit. That is, we don't need to be training people to respond emotionally to these types of situations. We need to be training them to remain calm and on top of the situation. Not with a thumbnail with your hands on your face and your mouth all the way open because you're screaming because you're scared. That is not helping. I made a video for Facebook the other day, and it was talking about how one of the reasons people hate me so much is because of how much I see black and white. And that's because most of life is black and white. All that gray crap that you hear about is something called justification. Okay? And when you have to justify something, just the word justification or justify itself implies that you're more or less putting on something false. That gray area nonsense is just a way people try to get away with doing whatever it is they're doing and staying on that high road. It's not any different. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Just the way it is. My biggest concern right now for us, I would say energy. I don't think the food prices are going to get any better. They're probably going to continue to get worse. Hopefully not at the same trend as they had up to this point, because, geez. But man, energy's just going to wipe people out. I know I said something, I believe yesterday, I mentioned something about how I do heavily suspect massive unrest, both across the pond and here. And a lot of that is going to be due to the energy bills. The food bills are insane, but most people seem to have been able to squeak by. But I mean, there's a lot of people in this country squeaking. But you go adding that double and triple energy costs, and it's going to sink them. And the moment that you take away all hope from so many people, you're going to have some massive unrest. So right now, my concern, I used to do this. I used to come on and tell you what my biggest concern for the week was. Right now, and it's not for necessarily this week, not at all, but the biggest boogeyman that I see coming at us that I think is probably inescapable is going to be civil unrest due to the high energy costs coupled with the high food costs. And I'm sure there'll be a myriad of other reasons too, because in a lot of regions of the country, the rent costs have just gotten flat stupid. So you can expect some unrest, man. When you put people in a position to where it doesn't matter how damn hard they fight, they can't even they won't even break even, no matter how hard they fight. When you put somebody in that situation, you're going to piss them off. How is that any different than a slave? Right? I mean, I know some people probably upset me saying something like that. Well, they're not getting beat, and that's correct. But you know what? Facts of the matter is, a lot of the slaves didn't get beat either. Most of them were very, very well taken care of because they were an expensive investment. Sorry about the facts, folks, but that's kind of how it went. Not saying that there weren't bad plantation owners and there weren't bad masters and all. No, not saying that. There were some that were absolutely horrid. But that was not the norm. Most of them were actually well taken care of. We are not. See, what's a sick slave going to give you? Right? So that's why, back during the slavery days, if one of your slaves was sick, you got on it. If there was something wrong, you got on it. You took care of them because that was your income. Today, they don't give a damn. They'll, as far as our situation today, working for companies and stuff, they don't care. They'll just cut you loose and replace you. They don't care. We're actually, in many ways, in a worse situation, all of us, right now. And I have no idea how that's going to turn out. I really don't. Now, we're here. This is a pretty calm place. I mean, it's not to say that nothing's going to happen. But thankfully, we're not in a big city like St. Louis or New York or Detroit or something like that. And if you are in one of those locations, man, I hope you got a plan that isn't in that location. The crazy thing is, imagine this, and I almost hate doing this because I don't like it. I don't like it when the prepper channels do a lot of it. A lot of their making up stories, what ifs. But this is a very, very, very likely what if. What if? Oh, I don't know. Let's say 30% of the people couldn't afford their energy costs, so therefore they had no heat. Now, many people, that's going to put homeless, because on a lot of leases and rental agreements these days, if you lose your power, you get evicted. That's part of the lease or the rental agreement, that you have to have power. So that's going to be one issue in and of itself. But when you've got 30% of a population that are freezing their asses off because they have no way to keep warm, pretty sure they're probably going to be knocking on the doors of the other 70% so they can try to survive. What's that going to look like? The cities are not even remotely capable of opening up large enough warming centers to take care of the epidemic that's about to happen. And then that's the cities. Most of the locations in the U.S. don't have things like warming centers. And I think it's one of those snowball things that's going to tumble out of control. I think there's going to be disgruntled people that try to attack different energy methods of energy, or the logistics, whether it be a pipeline, whether it be a truck, however, power substation. I do think there are going to be people that attack the infrastructure, without a doubt. Now, when I'm saying this type of stuff, folks, I'm not just pulling stuff out of my butt. All right? And that's where I get a little bit frustrated with the prepper channels. I think Pinball put out some nonsense this morning. Like I say, I like some of his stuff, but some of the stuff, he's just talking out his butt so bad he can't see straight. Like I've said before, it's an open book test, folks. It's an open book test. You just got to put out the effort. That's it. This is all a matter of history. Everything that we're going through somewhere is a matter of history. Go read about it. Go read about what happened. And you'll notice when you read about the different events in the different countries and stuff like that, there's a trend. There's a trend. And the nonsense that a lot of these prepper channels are spewing isn't even remotely close. Is not even remotely close. I'm telling you. In many locations in the country, like places like where we live, you are not going to be fighting for your life every single day. But these folks want to make you think like it's going to be Hamburger Hill in my front yard. Probably not. Are there going to be ugly things that happen all over? Abso-freaking-lutely. There already is. There already is. Will it be more wide scale? Absolutely. Will it be more targeted? Absolutely. But it's not going to go down like a lot of them are saying, because that's not how it happens. Go look. You've got oodles and oodles and oodles of countries as examples. Nicaragua, Venezuela, Libya. Just go read. That's all you got to do. It's an open book test. This is all there. And you'll see, like I say, when you start studying the different events, the different places and stuff like that, there's trends. That's like this whole thing, people don't understand why I'm coming out with keep law enforcement out of your mag, out of your group, and I'm not necessarily saying not having any members of law enforcement in your group, not saying that. The group I'm with has law enforcement members. So, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you got to be damn careful. Very damn careful. Do the homework. Go read up about these countries. Libya, Nicaragua, Venezuela. I mean, there's a ton. Brazil, Brazilian countries. I mean, there's a ton. And you'll see. And you see who the first roving gang is. And it's pretty much every time. And if it's not the first, it's right short thereafter. Go see what the profession of the individuals are that are a member of those roving gangs. And then tell me about how I need to go and include the sheriff in all of our plans. Right on, Bear. I always laughed at him for that one. I'm allowed to do that. It's a big learning curve, man. It is a big learning curve. But it's an open book test. All the stuff's there. So anyway, didn't really mean to get all into a tangent on that stuff, but that's really the long and short of it. I think that there's a lot more anxiety put into this stuff than what there needs to be. For one, why are you anxious? I mean, it sucks. It sucks. But being scared, being worried, doesn't change anything, and it doesn't help anything. I really don't think that right now, this second, that we are setting in any more way of danger or under threat than we were last week. Not a bit. That being said, I'm going to hop over and, we'll cover the tabs I have open. And, there's 3 things. I've only got 5 tabs open. 3 of them are kind of notable things. Obviously, as you see the headline, NATO fears Russia preparing to test Poseidon nuclear torpedo for the first time. And I'll go ahead and read what they say. According to the newspaper, the key commands of the NATO member countries have received reports over the past few days regarding the movement of the nuclear submarine Belgorod, which can carry Poseidon torpedoes. It is considered the epitome of a new concept of warfare, La Repubblica writes. It's said that the Belgorod is often mentioned in the context of the sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines, as this is one of the activities for which it was designed. However, Western intelligence is convinced that the submarine did not go beyond the White Sea in the north of Russia, the newspaper writes. In fact, it should next appear in the waters of the Arctic for a series of secret tests. The nuclear submarine BS-329 Belgorod was originally built as a Project 949A anti-submarine according to NATO classification Oscar II. However, it was modified as it was being built. The 184-meter submarine is now the longest submarine in existence today, Belgorod was officially transferred to service with the Russian Navy on July 8, 2022. The main difference between the Belgorod and all other nuclear submarines in the world is its potential ability to carry Poseidon nuclear torpedoes capable of traveling hundreds of miles underwater and causing nuclear tsunamis by exploding near a coast. At the same time, the United States created a network of satellites with infrared sensors precisely in order to record the launch of these Russian weapons. Hans Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists, said the torpedoes are still under development. According to him, the combat deployment of Poseidons is possible no earlier than the second half of this decade. And in an April report by the Congressional Research Service, it was said that they would enter service with the Russian Navy no earlier than 2027, writes U.S. cable news channel CNN. So who knows? Do I think that we need to pay attention to what they think on the progression of the weapon? No. I think they're idiots. Don't forget what I said earlier about being 20 years behind. I think they're probably already been produced. Maybe not tested yet, but I have a feeling that they've got a couple. So, again, I don't think, I know there's a lot of people that are worked up over this. Don't be. It's not new. It's not even unknown. This test was planned. It was known about. It was actually declared. I mean, it's like a nothing burger, man. It really, truly is. So don't let this concern you. Now, there's another issue going on this evening. A North Korea missile flies over Japan, prompting take shelter warnings. Close this over here. As it reads, a missile fired by North Korea over Japan prompted Japanese officials to advise citizens to take shelter before the projectile landed in the Pacific Ocean, according to Japanese authorities. A message issued by Japan's civil protection authorities and shared by Prime Minister Kishida Fumio's office warned Monday, Tuesday local time, of a missile that was believed to have been launched from North Korea, with instructions to please evacuate to the inside of a building or go to the basement. The target area was described as the northern Aomori prefecture. A follow-up message then said that the aforementioned missile is believed to have passed through the Pacific Ocean. If you find anything suspicious, the message added, do not approach it and immediately contact the police or fire department. Once the danger had ostensibly passed, the Japanese Premier's office condemned the act. Kishida was said to have issued a three-point plan based on the fact that a ballistic missile launch that passes over Japan is an act that could have a serious impact on the lives and property of the people of Japan. The first point was to focus on the area where the missile passed through and promptly confirm whether there is any damage due to the falling objects, etc. The second was to continue to collect and analyze information thoroughly, including future trends in North Korea, and the third involved a necessity to cooperate with relevant countries such as the United States and South Korea and continue to take necessary actions in a timely and appropriate manner. In remarks to the press, Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Matsuno Hirokazu strongly condemned the launch. The missile was said to have flown for more than 20 minutes, traveling some 4,000 kilometers, or about 2,500 miles, and around 3,000 kilometers, or roughly 1,860, east of Japanese territory. The missile reportedly achieved a high altitude of approximately 1,000 kilometers, or about 620 miles. That's a little high up there. Yikes, man. So, yeah, oh wow. There's more. Am I gonna read it? No, I'm not. I'm not. But I shared it out, so you can go to the Twitter if you want and read it all. All this stuff is on our Twitter. But I'm personally, and it doesn't really mean a damn thing, but I'm personally not good with what North Korea did. Normally, if they just do a test or something like that, hey, I understand what sovereign means, and I respect sovereign. If I don't respect sovereign for somebody else, how can I expect them to respect sovereign for me? So, it is what it is. But now, launching it over the country that you threaten most, probably not a good look. What do? I mean, you can go poke him in the eye if you want, Little Rocket Man, but he's going to poke back. He's going to poke back with everything he's got to poke with. And that's undoubtable, right? If there's... He is the worst situation to have to deal with. Out of everything going on with all these other nations, Russia, China, all that, he is the ticking time bomb. So, how do you deal with that? Well, the only thing I can think of that they need to do is set up an anti-missile defense system and knock them out of the air. Knock them out of the air. And I wouldn't necessarily say just from going over the land of Japan. I would say, period. He launches something up, knock it out of the sky. Launches something up, knock it out of the sky. I think that would probably be the best response. And I could be wrong on that. I could be a total, complete idiot when it comes to that line of thinking. But honestly, I'm pretty good with strategy. That's what I would do. That's how I would handle Little Rocket Man. I would just knock his arrows out of the sky. Plain and simple. Because you're not striking his property, his territory. I mean, other than it was his missile. But it's much different than attacking the country itself. I don't necessarily see Kim Jong-un getting all nukey because somebody blasted one of his missiles out of the sky. I don't think that would be the trigger mechanism to set him off. But then again, out of all the other situations we're facing in this nation, I would say that certainly that would be the one that kind of I don't want to use the words concerns me the most, because that's not the case. To me, that's the most volatile. I'll say that. I think that's the most volatile. But anyway, moving on, but keeping along the lines of things that go boomy, 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 there was a mushroom cloud spotted near a large U.S. city. As in like Las Vegas, large U.S. city. So, don't worry, Vegas is still there. They're still sending it up. It's all good. It was just a cloud, man. But anyways, the article says, people in Las Vegas shared photos of a mushroom-shaped cloud billowing on the horizon on Sunday, with some joking that it reminded them of nuclear tests one of the Sin City's tourist attractions in the 1950s. The unnerving sight was apparently made more eerie by rays of the setting sun coloring the cloud various shades of orange. Thunderclouds can take a mushroom-like shape when an upward current draws them to a higher altitude, but at which there is no strong wind to blow them away. The San Diego office of the National Weather Service shared a photo of a similar-looking cloud on Monday, but without the dramatic lighting as it moved west over California. The U.S. tested over 1,000 nuclear devices at its Nevada test site 65 miles northwest of Las Vegas over 4 decades. The infamous mushroom clouds were easily visible and became a tourist attraction for the city. So, and various pictures of them. It says, when it ratified the 1963 Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, the U.S. pledged not to conduct most kinds of nuclear tests. The U.S. carried out its last underground nuclear test in September 1992. 4 years later, Washington signed the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which forbids all detonations anywhere, though it has still not ratified the treaty. So, in other words, yeah, it's really... And that's kind of the same thing that went on, by the way, with NATO and the UN and stuff, and with Russia. Straight up, we lied to them. We told them one thing and then trying to do another. I mean, this is how the United States government operates. I mean, that's how they work. Or don't work. Coffee time. Let's see. China's neighbor claims aircraft intrusion, says the media. A Chinese aircraft intruded on South Korea's air defense zone without warning more than 70 times last year, military officials in Seoul have reportedly claimed. The pace of Chinese violations of the Korea Air Defense Identification Zone was about the same as in 2020, Yonhap News reported on Monday, citing a document that the South Korean Defense Ministry submitted to the National Assembly. There were over 20 such violations by Russia in 2019, the media outlet claimed, without providing more recent figures. The Cadiz was first drawn up by the U.S. Air Force in 1951 during the Korean War. The zone extends beyond South Korea's territorial airspace, but Seoul requires pilots of foreign aircraft to identify themselves to prevent unintentional confrontations. For instance, Japanese planes enter the Cadiz about 500 times annually after giving notice to South Korean authorities. While most intrusions pass without brouhaha, the South Korea scrambles military jets in some cases to respond. For example, at least 4 Chinese and 4 Russian warplanes breached the Cadiz several times on May 24th, prompting Seoul to send up fighter jets in response. That incident occurred as U.S. President Joe Biden was wrapping up his visit to the region. Russia and China held a joint military exercise that included flights by strategic bombers over the Sea of Japan and East China Sea. While Biden was in Japan, the South Korean military also scrambled fighter jets when Russian aircraft entered the Cadiz without warning in August. So, it's more of the same. It's not anything out of the normal either. All this stuff is saber rattling. And then lastly, just a quick little article here, just kind of as a what the hell and heads up kind of thing. This happened near the St. Louis area. A man poses as Normandy high schooler and assaults girl inside the bathroom. Not much to the article here, but it says an 18-year-old Ferguson man reportedly assaulted a student after allegedly trespassing onto the Normandy High School grounds in late September. A warrant has been issued for 18-year-old Antonio Batts of Ferguson for trespassing and assault charges. On September 22nd, police said Batts pretended to be a student at Normandy High School, entered the building. He then walked into the girls' bathroom where he touched a student's buttocks. As she resisted his advances, Batts reportedly grabbed her by the neck of her shirt before she could escape. The 18-year-old lingered in the building and asked other female students if they wanted to engage in sexual activities in the bathroom. He was apprehended shortly after. The school district said their safety is their number one priority, and extra security personnel are posted at the school. They will continue to review their safety and security procedures. Why do we not have a checkpoint system set up in our public schools by this time? With everything that goes on, why are we not doing that? I mean, why are we not in complete control of who it is that enters that building? I thought we were. See, I thought that all of that changed and the doors, Like that one dude that just went into that school and shooting all those kids, the one where the cops just sit back and did nothing in Texas. Unbelievable. Anyway, you got kids in school. Tell them to keep their heads on a swivel, especially if their school's not very secured. And hey, I don't care where you live. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter. Mental illness is everywhere. And so is hate. So is stress. So it doesn't matter where it is. Even a community like ours here, to be honest, is a prime community for something like that to happen. There's a lot of clickiness in this town, if you will, and it's a little bit on the extreme when it comes to social economic status. Yeah, it's a very big thing here. There's a fair amount of bullying that goes on here that's overlooked by, people in positions of authority, we'll say. And I'm not just speaking law enforcement. I'm talking, it could be school administration, Depending on who you are in this town, you'd either get away with murder, and there's maybe even been a literal case of that, or you get the biggest infraction ever for jaywalking. It's what it is. Oh, man. By the way, the murder comment, that was something that happened, I don't know, 60s or something. Just long, long, long time ago. All right. I reckon I got some headlines to read you. I'll run through these and hopefully I get good rest. Now, I was exhausted when I got up. It felt like I didn't get really good rest. So, whatever. Alright. And there was... There I go coughing again. There was a fair amount of headlines today. Taiwan reaches out to India. A ruble will become official currency in former Ukrainian regions. OPEC mulls output cut amid slowing global growth, says media. EU mulls exemption from anti-Russia sanctions, says Bloomberg. Optimus bots will get Catgirl options, says Musk, talking about his robot. NATO, and I haven't even read up on that thing. I don't know if I want to. NATO not obliged to assist Ukraine, says German ambassador. Truss already less popular than disgraced Johnson, says a poll. UK forced to reverse tax cut for the highest earners. Russian State Duma ratifies accession treaties for Donbass, Kherson, and Zaporozhye. Kremlin comments on borders of new territories. Top Polish politician trolls XFM over tweet. Ukraine grain deals not enough, says Moscow. U.S. military struggling with recruitment. Ukrainian commander believes Putin wants to take Kiev. I'm sure that I entered a contest. Forgive me. Let's see. Russia's Gazprom speaks on Nord Stream 2 revival. Hey, go get in on it if you want. It's, I forget. Hang on. Oh, come on. Give me the contest stuff. Okay. Yeah, here it is. From October 3rd to October 8th, simply share our event webpage on Facebook or Twitter for the chance to win a DJI credit of up to $35,000 USD. So, if you're interested in that, go to twitter.com / the Watchman News and just scroll down a little ways and go get you some. I couldn't resist that. If I can get that, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're talking about the brand new Mavic 3 Enterprise, the T version with the thermal, no doubt. And yeah, probably have to do an Inspire. Anyway, let me quit dreaming. Russia's Gazprom speaks on Nord Stream 2 revival. No place for emotions in nuclear decisions, says Kremlin. I just looked up there. Yeah, the bulletproof backpacks. I've actually seen those around for several years now. EU asylum system has failed, says Austria. Time for EU to sanction Turkey, says top German MP. I don't know if I'm supposed to say Turkey any different when it's spelled like that or not, but I'm not going to. I don't know, hell, it might not be the same damn country. Beats me. Hey, don't expect me to know geography. Yeah, not a strong point, homie. I'm still trying to remember that Spain is not in South America. I'm kidding you not. It was a conversation I had with Jen just the other day. I was like, I can't get that straight. That, like, Spain is, like, over there, right? Not below us. I don't know why. I have such a hard time accepting that. Poland signs World War II reparations demand. Earlier I mentioned about a couple of headlines that kind of gave me the indication there might be a rift between Poland and Germany that might be really bubbling. Yeah, so Kiev's counterattacks on Kherson have failed, says a top official. Let's see. No new Russia sanctions without oil price cap, says Politico. EU state suffers unplanned nuclear reactor shutdown. Iran names countries behind riots. Hurricane Ian relief gets political. And I watched a video from Bear earlier. They're in Florida. Him and Shield Bearer of Faith, Twitch. They're down in Florida doing some recon, trying to find out what they need where. And so far, according to them, it doesn't look that bad. So they're going to go to a different place. They're going to go to Fort Myers tomorrow. And, hey, everything could be different when they get to Fort Myers. It could be wiped out. But so far, everything they've seen really hasn't been that bad. So it's really unfortunate that all these types of games and all this type of drama has to go on. UK Defense Secretary predicts if Russia will use nukes. Elon, wait a minute. I gotta see, I've been waiting for a reply to a question for hours now, and I cannot wait. I gotta see. Oh. Hang on. And this was in the official Prepper Nation Facebook group. A lady had shared a picture of her newborn baby, but in the picture, you see her arm, and she's got a tattoo of a compound on her arm. I've never seen a tattoo of a compound before. And I was like, I'm calling it a compound. I may have the name wrong. I don't know. But anyway, I'm like, where you got a picture of all the molecules and how they're put together. Yeah. Anyway, so I asked her what it was, and the answer is oxytocin with serotonin and dopamine hanging by. That's incredible. That is awesome. That is awesome. I like unique things, and that is certainly, at least to me, that's unique. Let's see. Elon Musk suggests Ukraine peace plan. Switzerland resists handover of Russian assets to Ukraine. Italy hopes to resolve Russian gas supply halt. Reality star fined for promoting crypto. Russia faces fourth European NATO Reich, says Zhuganov. I probably said that way wrong, but we can pretend. Former Pentagon advisor points to Nord Stream suspects. Wasn't me, man. I can't even hold my breath that long. So, let's see. And I'm pretty sure my crossbow wouldn't have done that. Elon Musk hammered by Ukraine over peace plan. Actor blames straight people for gay comedy's box office failure. These companies that are investing into this stuff are idiots. Because this whole push, this whole trend is being so hyped up by the media. And the amount of people, the number of people are so hyped up by the media. So when the rubber meets the road, you're going to have stuff like this. Because in reality, people don't want to hear it. The majority of people don't want to hear it. Right? The majority of people don't want conflict. So they'll be like, whatever, just stay over there. Right? They aren't going to go out of their way to go watch this movie. Because, hey, they're not really hip with it to begin with, yo. They just don't want to hear your bullshit. Just being straight. Well, literally, figuratively, and yeah, I'm straight. NVIDIA completely leave Russia, says Forbes. Iran comments on drones in Ukraine. Zelensky reacts to Musk's proposal. Americans on left and right think their side is losing, says a poll. A U.S. professor offers Nord Stream theory. Let's see. Russian ex-president comments on Musk's Ukraine proposal. Trump sues CNN for defamation. Poll shows big shift in party preference for U.S. midterms. And that's it. I covered the rest. Fun times. So just keep doing what you've been doing. I mean, nothing changes for us at this point. Which is a good thing. The more time, the better. And that goes for everything going on. The more time, the better. Just keep at it, you know. Hey, just because of what's going on with me, I'm not going to quit prepping. I'm not going to quit getting ready. I'm not going to quit moving forward. That would be foolish. In fact, that'd be beyond foolish. That'd be plain stupid. The reason I say that is because I'm not going to be any better then. So I'd be better off and smarter to do the most that I can now while I'm more able to prepare for the times that I'm not. So if there's anybody that might be in a similar position as me, don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. He has got the ultimate say. Not you. Not your doctor. Not your disease or your conditions. He's got the last say. Never lose sight of that. Anyway, I am going to hop out of here and chillax for a little bit and go to bed. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it again. So I appreciate everybody coming. Hope to see you tomorrow. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.